Hair loss almost never begins with certainty. There is no clear starting line, no moment where the mind can say, "This is it." Instead, it begins with a feeling, subtle, quiet, and easy to dismiss. A mirror glance lasts slightly longer than before. The hand moves through the hair but pauses. The eyes focus on details that were never important yesterday. At first, the mind tries to stay calm. It offers explanations. It searches for reasons to feel safe. Maybe it's stress. Maybe it's lighting. Maybe it's temporary. But uncertainty has already entered. The human brain is wired to react strongly to changes in the self, especially changes related to appearance, because appearance is tied to identity, social acceptance, and personal value. This is not vanity, it is biology. The brain begins scanning for more information. Attention narrows, focus sharpens. The mirror stops being neutral. It becomes a place to confirm fear or find relief. At this stage, anxiety is quiet. It does not disrupt life yet, but it creates mental tension, a background noise that does not fully disappear. This is the beginning.
When uncertainty stays unresolved, the brain seeks control, and control begins with monitoring. The checking starts slowly, once a day, then twice, then without noticing. The mirror becomes routine. Photos are examined closely. Lighting is adjusted. Angles are tested. The brain believes that if it gathers enough information, fear will disappear. But fear does not respond to information, it responds to certainty. And certainty never arrives. Comparison follows naturally. Other people's hair becomes reference data. Online images distort reality. Normal variation disappears from perception. The anxious mind filters what it sees. It highlights what confirms fear and ignores what contradicts it. Reassurance feels good, briefly, but it fades quickly, so the brain checks again and again. This creates a loop, not because hair loss is progressing rapidly, but because attention is trapped. Mental energy becomes consumed, not by the condition itself, but by constant focus on it.
Over time, the anxiety deepens. It stops being about observation and becomes about meaning. The questions change. What does this say about me? How will others see me? What am I losing? Hair loss becomes symbolic. It represents aging, loss of control, loss of confidence. This is where anxiety becomes internal. The body reacts automatically. Muscles stay tense. The jaw tightens. Breathing becomes shallow. Even during rest, the nervous system stays alert. This is chronic anxiety, quiet, persistent, exhausting. Many people believe something is wrong with them here, but this response is common. The brain is trying to protect identity by staying prepared for perceived threat. But constant preparation becomes pressure, and pressure becomes fatigue. Anxiety cannot survive without belief. At some point, awareness begins to interrupt the loop. The body slows first, breathing deepens, muscles loosen slightly. Then, understanding follows. Hair loss is biological. It is influenced by genetics, hormones, and time. It is not a personal failure. Anxiety, however, is psychological. It is shaped by interpretation, attention, and fear. This distinction changes everything. The mind begins to recognize the cycle. Checking loses urgency. The mirror loses emotional power. This stage is not denial, it is regulation.
The nervous system begins to feel safe again. Thoughts slow. Attention expands outward. Control returns, not over hair, but over reaction. Acceptance does not arrive suddenly, it settles slowly. It is the moment the mind stops resisting reality and starts cooperating with it. Attention shifts outward, energy returns to life. Self-worth detaches from appearance. Identity becomes internally grounded. Hair loss becomes information, not a threat. The nervous system stabilizes. Thoughts slow naturally. Presence replaces fear. This is psychological balance. Not perfection, not constant confidence, but calm awareness and peace with change.
After acceptance begins, something subtle but important happens. The mind slowly starts to reorganize how it sees the self. For a long time, attention was locked inward. Every thought revolved around appearance. Every social moment carried hidden tension. Now that tension begins to loosen. The mind starts to notice something it had forgotten. Life was always bigger than this fear. Conversations feel lighter. Eye contact lasts longer. Posture changes without effort. This is not forced confidence, it is relief. The brain learns that nothing catastrophic happened. Social safety returns. The fear of being judged weakens, not because judgment disappeared, but because its importance did. Self-image begins to rebuild from the inside out, not based on hair, but on presence, behavior, and connection. This stage is quiet, but powerful. With time, the experience becomes integrated. Hair loss is no longer a central thought. It becomes background information, like age, height, or voice. The mind stops monitoring. The body stops bracing. Thoughts about hair appear less often, and when they do, they carry no emotional charge. This is normalization. The nervous system remains calm. Self-attention decreases. Mental space opens. Energy returns to creativity, relationships, and purpose. This is not indifference, it is psychological maturity. The experience no longer defines identity. It becomes part of personal history, not a source of fear. This is long-term balance, not because hair loss stopped, but because anxiety did. At this stage, the experience begins to take on meaning.